The scan was supposed to be routine. In 2024, a joint team of British and American researchers fed the most comprehensive digital survey of Stonehenge ever created into a neural network. They had mapped every millimeter of the monument using LiDAR, ground-penetrating radar, and drone photogrammetry. The goal was simply to create a high-resolution digital twin for preservation. But when the machine learning algorithms finished processing the data, the researchers didn't publish a press release. They sat in stunned silence because the AI didn't see what human archaeologists have been seeing for centuries. It didn't see a crude temple built by Neolithic farmers. It saw a machine. It saw mathematical constants that wouldn't be discovered for another 2,000 years. It saw acoustic engineering so precise that moving a single stone by a meter would destroy the system. And perhaps, most disturbingly, it saw a pattern in the construction timeline that makes no logical sense. Evidence that the people who built Stonehenge weren't learning how to build it. They were trying to remember how. The algorithm stripped away our assumptions and left us with a data set that shouldn't exist. And to understand why the truth about Stonehenge is far more terrifying than the history books admit, we have to look at what the AI found on the surface of the stones themselves. For decades, the official story has been that these massive sarsen stones were shaped using stone mauls and antler picks, primitive tools for a primitive time. But the neural network, trained to recognize distinct tool signatures, flagged an anomaly that human eyes had missed. It identified 5 distinct working techniques. The first was exactly what you'd expect: rough pecking and grinding. But the second technique, found specifically on the lintels and the tongue and groove joints, was impossible. The AI detected curved surfaces measuring less than 2 millimeters of deviation across spans of 2 meters. This isn't just good craftsmanship. This is machine-grade tolerance. The uniformity of these curves exceeds anything achievable by hand percussion. When the AI compared these surface profiles to thousands of known tool signatures from the Neolithic period, it returned 0 matches. The computer was telling us that the most critical parts of the monument were shaped using a technology that appears nowhere else in the archaeological record of that era. It implies a level of systematic planning and measurement that supposedly wouldn't exist until the rise of Greece or Rome. But the physical impossibility of the shaping is just the tip of the iceberg. The AI was just getting started. When the researchers expanded the analysis to the arrangement of the stones, the algorithm uncovered something that had been hiding in plain sight for 4,500 years. It wasn't just a visual monument, it was an audio weapon. Acoustic archaeologists have always suspected the circle had sonic properties, but the AI simulation revealed the full, terrifying extent of the design. The specific spacing of the sarsen stones creates a phenomenon known as constructive interference. The stones are positioned to amplify frequencies between 95 and 120 hertz, the exact range of a deep male voice, a drum, or a chanting crowd. The simulation showed that if you were standing inside the circle 4,500 years ago, sound wouldn't just be loud, it would be physical. It would resonate in your chest cavity. It would feel supernatural. But here's the smoking gun the AI found. This acoustic perfection wasn't a happy accident. The algorithm calculated the probability of these stones being arranged this way by chance. The result was less than 1 in 10,000. This was engineered. The builders understood the physics of sound waves millennia before the science of acoustics was formally invented. And they didn't stop at the circle. When the neural networks analyzed the surrounding landscape, the ridges, the valleys, the mounds, miles away from the site, it found that the earth itself had been sculpted. The landscape acts as a funnel, channeling sound from miles away directly into the stone circle. This changes everything. It suggests Stonehenge wasn't a passive temple for silent prayer. It was an active, engineered mechanism designed to manipulate sensory perception on a massive scale. As the analysis went deeper, the anomalies shifted from physical to mathematical. And this is where the mainstream narrative begins to collapse completely. We are told that Neolithic Britons had no written numbers and no concept of advanced geometry. Yet, when the AI mapped the spatial relationships between the stones, the Aubrey holes, and the station stones, it began to flag constants that define modern mathematics. The AI found at least 7 distinct Pythagorean triangles embedded in the layout, right triangles with the precise 3 to 4 to 5 ratio. Pythagoras wouldn't be born for another 2,000 years. Even more jarring, the algorithm analyzed the dimensions of the Sarsen circle and found a circumference to diameter ratio of 3.14 to 1, accurate to 99.7%. For context, the ancient Egyptians, a civilization we consider far more advanced, calculated pi at 3.16. The Babylonians were at 3.125. Somehow, people in prehistoric Britain, theoretically living in mud huts, possessed a value for pi that was more accurate than the great empires of antiquity. Where did this knowledge come from? The most disturbing answer comes from the chronology the AI constructed. Usually, when a civilization builds monuments over centuries, the technology gets better. The pyramids got bigger and sharper. Roman engineering became more complex. But at Stonehenge, the AI found the opposite. By analyzing the tool marks and weathering patterns, the neural network was able to sequence the construction phases with a new level of accuracy. It found that the earliest stones, the ones placed around 2500 BCE, are the most precise. They have the tightest joints, the most perfect acoustic properties, and the most accurate astronomical alignments. The modifications made centuries later, they are crude. The lines are wobbly. The geometry is sloppy. The astronomical alignments drift off target. This is the fingerprint of a civilization in free fall. It suggests that the people who started Stonehenge knew exactly what they were doing, possessing a high technology or deep knowledge that was subsequently lost. The later builders weren't innovating. They were desperately trying to maintain a machine they no longer understood. This brings us to the final and most haunting question the AI attempted to answer. What was the machine for? We know about the summer solstice. Everyone knows the sun rises over the heelstone. But the AI, capable of processing complex orbital mechanics, looked at the night sky as it appeared 4,500 years ago and found a cycle that is much harder to track. The monument encodes the 18.6-year lunar cycle, the lunar standstill. To notice this cycle requires decades of continuous recorded observation. To build a stone computer to track it requires obsession. Why does this matter? Because the 18.6-year cycle drives the tides. It influences the climate. And in the ancient world, it was often correlated with extreme weather events. When the AI combined the lunar tracking, the solstice alignments, and the star positions, a dark pattern emerged. Stonehenge wasn't a calendar for farming. It was a clock counting down to disaster. The alignments allow for the prediction of eclipses and extreme tidal events. It mirrors findings at other sophisticated sites like Göbekli Tepe, which appears to memorialize a comet strike, or the Nebra sky disk, which tracks climate shifts. The data suggests that this wasn't a monument to the gods. It was a survival tool. It was a warning system built by a culture that understood the fragility of their environment better than we do. They built it in stone, massive, impossible to move stone, so that the message would survive even if the people didn't. And they were right, the people vanished. The culture that could transport bluestones from 150 miles away, that could flatten microscopic variances on 30-ton lintels, that knew pi and Pythagoras before history began, they disappeared. All that remained were the stones and the warning that we eventually forgot how to read. Until now, the machine learning algorithms have given us the eyes to see what is really standing on the Salisbury Plain. It's not a pile of rocks, it's a message in a bottle thrown across an ocean of time. The AI has proven that the builders were not primitive. They were inheritors of a science we have consistently underestimated. But here's the thought that should keep you up tonight. The scan only covered the 5% of the site that has been excavated. The ground-penetrating radar shows hundreds of other features, pits, chambers, and alignments still buried beneath the grass, waiting. The AI has shown us the pattern, but we still don't have the full key. If a civilization this advanced could rise, build something this perfect, and then completely regress into obscurity, what makes us think we are immune to the same fate? We are just now uncovering the technology of the past, but maybe, just maybe, we are looking at a reflection of our own future. If you want to join us as we peel back the layers of history's greatest anomalies, make sure you're subscribed. The past is not what you were told, and we are just getting started.